So this is breaking news. Actor and Marvel star Jonathan Majors has been found guilty in his recent criminal case where he's been accused of multiple allegations. Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your number one source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. So this Jonathan Majors situation, this court case, this trial, has taken a lot of twists and turns. We even got audio where Jonathan Majors told his then girlfriend, Grace Jabari, he needed her to conduct herself more like Michelle Obama or Coretta Scott King. A lot of you heard the audio and said, I don't see anything wrong with what he was saying to her in this particular instance. But then we got video footage where it seems as if Jonathan Majors was trying to put Grace Jabari into a taxi cab and then at some point started running away from her. We saw all of that. But before that, when we first reported on this story back in March, where Jonathan Majors was accused of physically attacking Grace Jabari, it opened a can of worms, including Jonathan Majors being dropped from his management company and his publicity company. We also told you that we felt like his legal team dropped the ball multiple times in regards to handling his case, releasing the text messages where a lot of people, experts, therapists that have said, this sounds like an abused woman responding to her abuser. But this has caused a lot of people going back and forth in regards to how they feel about Jonathan Majors or Grace Jabari. Some people feel like Grace Jabari should be charged, including the police. They felt like they had enough evidence to arrest her. She was arrested. However, prosecutors were not interested and were not willing to bring charges against Grace Jabari. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been following this case and we've given you a couple of videos on updates in regards to what has been said in court, including a particular incident that happened back in September of 2022, where they were able to admit this into evidence because of the defense bringing up this incident, which originally was not going to be discussed at all during the case, which opened room for the text messages where it seemed as if, where Jonathan Majors seemingly was admitting to being physically abusive to Grace Jabari. Let's give you the update though now, because as you know, Jonathan Majors was facing up to a year in prison for these allegations. So the Hollywood Reporter writes this. It says, a New York jury found Marvel actor Jonathan Majors guilty of reckless assault in the third degree and guilty of harassment. The verdict was reached by a 6-person jury after roughly over 4 hours of deliberation spread across 3 days. Jonathan Majors, wearing a gray suit and a black dress shirt and tie, sat with his attorneys, with family members, and his girlfriend, Megan Good. Sidebar, one of the stories that came out, I think on Friday, was as the defense were saying their last statements in regards to this, some of you were reacting to hearing the news that Jonathan Majors and Megan Good started crying in court. Some of you said, aw, some of you also said they're actors. I'm just wanted to mention that. As the verdict was read, these family members and girlfriend were sitting behind him. Sentencing is set for February 6th. The charges carry a sentence of up to 1 year in prison. On 2 other charges, he was found not guilty of intentional assault in the third degree and not guilty of aggravated harassment in the second degree. So they said in total, Major faces 4 charges of assault, aggravated harassment, and harassment after he called 911 on March 25th when he said that he found his ex-partner, Grace Jabari, unconscious in their apartment. Police arrested Majors after finding apparent injuries on Jabari, including a laceration behind her ear and a bruised and fractured finger. Major pleaded not guilty to all charges. Jabari, who took the witness stand, as you recall, for the first 4 days of the trial, said Majors had caused the injuries during an altercation in the car several hours before. She testified that the alleged incident occurred in a private car when she saw a text on Majors' phone that read, "Oh, how I wish I to be kissing you." And for those that follow us on our Tuesday takeover, I said to you, well, I don't necessarily believe the Megan Good relationship. Then I said to myself, well, was he texting Megan Good at the time? I'm just saying, some people have speculated that as well. Jabari has said she tried to snatch the phone from Majors, who then pried her finger from the phone, grabbed her arm and right hand, twisted her forearm, and struck her head to get the phone away from her. The first 3 charges are misdemeanor offenses and related to the alleged incidents in the car. The fourth charge of harassment, which is a violation, the most minor offense among the charges, relates to an allegation that Majors threw Jabari back into the car as she tried to exit. Fast rewinding back to the video footage where we see him doing exactly that before she starts chasing him through these New York City streets. All right. Hollywood Reporter writes, that action is captured on surveillance video while the altercation inside the car was not captured on camera. The charges against Majors were brought by the state of New York rather than by Jabari herself, which is important to note because that's something that a lot of people missed in the Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion situation. A lot of people felt like it was Megan that was, suing or bringing charges against Tory Lanez. No, it was the state. They said the case was a criminal trial as opposed to civil, meaning that the burden of proof is higher for the jury, who had to find proof of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt on each charge. Like, these are important things to note because I know we'd like to pretend that we're attorneys, but we're not. The arrest had already had implications on what had been the biggest year in Major's career, which included starring roles in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Creed 3, and Loki Season 2. In the wake of his arrest, both his publicity firm, as I told you, the lead company, and managers at the Management 360 dropped him. And the Disney-owned Searchlight Films removed magazine Dreams from its release calendar. And I believe a lot of the things that he had in the works, they were waiting to see what the result of this criminal case would be. So in a statement after the verdict, Ross Kramer, an attorney for Jabari, said that they hope that the guilty verdict inspires other victims of assault. They said, "We are gratified to see justice served by today's guilty verdict," the statement read. Ms. Jabari testified publicly and truthfully, even though reliving these traumatic events on the witness stand was obviously painful. We are grateful to the jurors and the judge for their attention and patience, and to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office for their hard work and support. Ms. Jabari's resolve to see this case through to the end demonstrates her tremendous strength and resilience. Unfortunately, for every survivor like Ms. Jabari who comes forward to hold their abuser accountable, there are many others who believe that they cannot. We hope that her actions will inspire other survivors to speak their truth and seek justice. So during the trial, prosecutors approached this as a case of domestic violence while the defense repeatedly called Jabari's credibility into question and positioned it in an ex's revenge. Majors appeared in person every day of the 2-week trial with Megan Good and family members in attendance. He did not testify during the trial and showed little emotion except for tearing up during the closing arguments from his attorney, Priya Chaudhry. As she said, his fear of what happens when a black man in America calls 911 came true. So as we reminded you before, Priya Chaudhry claimed that Jabari was the aggressor in the car, pointing to the fact that Major's coat was ripped and that Jabari is seen on surveillance video running after Majors down the street after the initial alleged altercation in the car. Jabari said that she ran after him to find out who sent the text. Chaudhry further argued that Jabari was uninjured after leaving the car and had gone, quote, revenge partying at a club where she bought champagne on Major's credit card, while still being able to use her right hand, which she said had been injured. Jabari testified that she had sought help from 3 strangers on the street after the first altercation in the car, and then they invited her to a club, which she accepted in order to seek comfort after the alleged incident. That's the video footage that we showed you a couple of videos ago in regards to her actions after the incident. Chaudhry implied that Grace Jabari had injured herself later after drinking throughout the evening and then returning to their shared apartment and taking sleeping pills. Majors, who had stayed at a hotel after leaving the car, returned to the apartment in the morning and called 911 after reporting that he had found Jabari unconscious. So as we reported to you before, prosecutors also introduced a series of text messages into evidence which could prove damaging to Major's reputation as they pertain to several alleged incidents that happened during the course of Major and Jabari's Jabari's relationship. Prosecutors allege a pattern of abuse, which they said explained why Jabari had not immediately told police officers that Majors had caused the injuries. So as I reported to you before, these texts were initially deemed inadmissible, but then they were able to be shown by prosecutors to jury members following a line of cross-examination questions from Majors' defense team that Judge Michael Gaffey said lacked specificity. Jabari said that she made of Majors during an earlier argument in September of 2022, in which the actor admonished Jabari for drinking and then returning to their home with her friend, and said she needs to live up to the standards of Coretta Scott King and Michelle Obama, and adding of himself, "I am a great man." Members of the jury were instructed to view this as background information rather than evidence of propensity to commit a crime. So after the verdict was reached, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg weighed in and said, "At the Manhattan DA's office, we are committed to centering survivors in all of our work. The evidence presented throughout this trial illustrated a cycle of psychological and emotional abuse and escalating patterns of coercion far too common across the many intimate partner violence cases we see each and every day. Today, a jury determined that the pattern of abuse and coercion culminated with Mr. Majors assaulting and harassing his girlfriend. We thank the jury for its service and the survivor for bravely telling her story despite having to relive her trauma on the stand." Is it over for Jonathan Majors and his career? I don't think so. How much time will Jonathan Majors actually serve? We will have to wait and see until February when he is sentenced. So guys, as always, let's continue with this constructive conversation on, do you think that this was a just decision? As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. Thanks for watching.
You bring the lighter, I got the fuse.